All right, all right, all right. Has been a while, but welcome everyone to episode 97. Yeah, close to 100. We're getting there of FC Chat. And
I just realized that you flip your camera and mine is flipped on my side. It's double flipped. It's actually, I think that's my real face. It's weird.
I mean, it's all by design. Totally my intention, right?
Do you usually
To
have your
give
camera
everyone
flipped like
the.
that?
I think it has to do with like if I just have my webcam on the screen, it's
Ah, okay.
flipped. If
Yeah.
I screen cap my camera from Discord, it's not flipped, right? That's where it becomes weird. But yeah, guys, um, I guess most people will be aware, but let me give you guys a little bit of an introduction. We had this episode actually lined up a while ago, like I don't know, a month ago or something. We wanted to do it, and at the time um, there was one big overarching like topic that came up over and over, which was anti-blaxes and stuff like this. So we wanted to talk about that originally, and you know,
Oh, yeah.
very very much. I'm very sure we will talk about that today too. But in the meantime, there has also been other stuff that came up. I mean, obviously, there's one big part of it that we will talk about. That's the CCP part, right? The CCPB. But then also the AT is going on. Amelia and Bjorn being on the same team with like a lot of other experienced guys. You guys can talk about that probably. And yeah, and this there has also been some stuff on there has also been some stuff on the Twitch side of things that people have been talking about and stuff, or content creator, I should say, right? Which is the whole high say griefing stuff. We might just talk about that. But yeah, overall, I think I got two good guys to talk about all these topics. So for those who are not aware, right? First of all, we have like Amelia, super well known for being like a small scale elite PvP guy, AT guy, a part of Goran. He made a big Reddit post about the Anspelec stuff and so on that people might know. And he also got a YouTube channel that people might be familiar with. So yeah, how's it going, Amelia?
Good. Good to be here.
And then we obviously have, it doesn't really need an introduction. I always say that though. It's like the sixth time he's on. But he's like the internet spaceship entertainment guy, He's also a really good friend of mine. And, I think with the recent news, he just joined CCP, or he is about to join CCP. I mean, maybe you can talk about that.
Already joined them.
You already joined them.
I had 3 work days, 3.5.
But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for inviting me, man.
And then yeah, I mean, maybe we start with that. Like, how did that come to be?
Honestly, I just poked someone CCP and went, "Hey, I kind of want to get a job at your place. Do you want me?" And they said yes. That's kind of the gist of it, if I'm honest. I had a few meetings. I decided that I wanted to move to Iceland. Spain wasn't working out for me for several reasons. I don't mind getting into that. It was 3 years that I lived there. Things weren't really going the way I wanted there. COVID kind of cocked everything at the start. And then we had like sickness in the family and then death in the family, and like shit just wasn't going the way I wanted. I didn't see a future living there, so isolated as I was. So this summer I was like, fuck this shit. I'm gonna go back to Iceland. My little brother just had a kid yesterday or 2 days ago. So like there's other family things as well where like, you know what, I'm too far away for this to for me to want to be here. Yeah, to be like more a part of everything. So I decided like, fuck it. Spain's done. It's too warm here anyway, and
the fires didn't help.
Yeah.
Dude, that was crazy. Like 2 or 3 days before, the entire complex I lived in got like engulfed in flames. Like literally, I was out there running around in 40-degree heat from fire. like which engulfed the whole thing. It was a nuts state. So that didn't help. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember you telling that story of you like running around with like some dudes that also lived there trying to like figure out what to do. And just like, you know.
They had 80 firemen, like 5 helicopters, 2 planes, and like they're just like
hot.
insane team to try and stop it because it was nuts, man. Tactical, thanks for the gifted subs, bro.
Yo, thanks for the subs overall, guys. The thing is, I had audio issues not too long ago, and now it's on the same audio channel as the voice, as the comms. So I'm like, shit, like I can't even mute it now.
You subscribe to
Yeah.
But yeah, the general idea of the whole thing of why I'm there, I wanted to change things in my life. I've been streaming for like 7 going 8 years. Don't see myself doing that as the only thing as a living, like into my 40s. I'm 35 now. Maybe that's part of it too. And I just poked CCP, people that I've gotten to know over years and years of streaming with them at events.
Hot.
And said, yeah, I would love to come join you guys. And then quickly after that, I had several meetings with them. Figured out that I would be the best fit in the community team, doing things that I've been doing kind of this whole time. And yeah, that's that.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's the perfect fit, honestly. That's what I thought right away, right?
That's so hot.
Like, I couldn't imagine someone like better qualified for that part. Like, obviously, you're a big part of the community already anyway.
Subscribe to Pando.
Okay, I'm
gonna
gonna
the community.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to fix the audio thing right now. Can you say something quick?
Sure. Banana.
All right, perfect. That should work. Alrighty. I'm sorry. It's gonna be so weird. Miranda saying, "You subscribe to Pando." That's so hot. Constantly, guys. I appreciate all the subs.
Can you just like lower it or something?
No, I mean I don't have a way right now.
Oh.
But I've fixed it now. It's gonna be muted on.
You'll be fine, dude. Frosty, yes, I can still stream. I made sure that I can still stream, and I can even still make money off Twitch. So I can still stream and have fun and do things there.
Yeah, and that's. Sorry.
Oh, go on.
That's something I wanted to just actually bring up. Is like constantly people kept asking me, "Where's Bjorn? Where's Bjorn? What's going on with Bjorn?" You know, and like, I think a lot of people you could tell like, were worried you wouldn't come back. You quit Eve. You're like, oh no, I can't stream anymore. Like,
I definitely did not quit Eve. In fact, the last 6 months to a year, I've been playing way more Eve than I was when I was just streaming every day. And that's because of Amelia here, dragging me into all kinds of shenanigans. First into the Potchman, then into deployment in Outer Passage, and then AT related shit. Like it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's what I kept saying to people. Like, no, check his killboard. He's active. He's doing stuff. He's just not on streaming it right now and stuff. Don't you worry. He's gonna be back.
Kidnapped him for a bit.
Yeah,
very much, man. You did it really smoothly too. Because like first we get to know each other. We roam a bit on stream, like small gang stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is a fun person to fly with. And then it's like Potchman things. Hey, you want to come fly Barghest and go headbutt people with torpedoes? Like, fuck yeah. And then after that, you link me like a battle report of you just decimating this fleet with Stormbringers. And I was like, oh, fuck, I need to get in on this.
I remember Dexter saying immediately, he was just like, yeah, Bjorn's going to want to come for sure.
Yep.
And dude, he has been like poking me in the entire time about Potchman and also Shines, right? And now Marsby is like, oh fuck yeah, Potchman, right? So like he's spreading the word.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've seen you've had some good streams in Potchman. I thought you do a direct fleet the other day, Pando.
Yep. Yeah. But I also feel like Potchman, you kind of have to scale it up a little bit. You know, I did take the Drakavix out, knowing okay, it's a good first step. You know, they can handle some shit. It's not super expensive, like as an investment. You know, as my first Potchman fleet, I didn't really want to go Leshucks and stuff, even though it was pretty obvious that Leshucks are kind of like the all-round tool if you wanna not only like win fights there, but then also get the sites done very comfortably and stuff. But then doing it public with the standing issues, and I simply had to learn about the sites a little bit, right? Like what are the tricky parts about it and stuff, right? Not only
Yeah, I
the
don't think there's
PvP
time.
parts, also the PvE side. You know, this like the other day we lost some shit because like someone went in there with bad trick standing, and then there's a Nitra that spawns suddenly like occupies like 90% of our rep power already, right? So if anyone comes in to fight us, then we're kind of doomed. Like we can't rep anyone really, right?
Yeah.
So all these little things that you just gotta be aware and stuff, right? And that people need to be aware, like, you know, people that join the fleets need to be aware, like, how does this work, you know? And that the only way to do this is to, you know, go out and do it. In my opinion, anyway. You can make a YouTube tutorial and stuff and get so far, but in my opinion, it's always best to get out and do it, right?
For sure.
And I think that's like what we can all three can say, like, if you're interested in it, just, you know, film it in there. Super easy, right? That's the big part of it, that you can get in there super easy. And then just have a look, see what's out there. And then next time you bring something that can deal with the situation you ran into, right? Easy. Yep. But yeah. So we have CCPB now. One question I have on my list. First of all, it's super nice from CCP to see they're recruiting more from the community, right? Swift, Aurora, and now you. And then Suetonia, correct, yeah. Big one. I mean, you can go way back and say, okay, CCP Rise and Fozzy and so on. But it has been a while since they really recruited out, like, all of the community. But who else? Who would be on the top list, like as a CCP, as a dev? Who would be on the top? You think would make a really good? Maybe there's more coming. I don't know. Maybe there's some more people in the pipeline. I mean, now's the time to leak.
There is someone in the pipeline, but I'm obviously not going to leak that. But I know about someone.
It's a bit
no.
Convicts, another one, yeah. Who would be a really good candidate? You think?
It depends on what for, obviously.
I mean, yeah. I mean, sure. Evan, CCP Pando is not happening now. I mean, not yet.
You get Kadesh in there for some ship balance, dude.
Kadesh. One of the things people probably keep saying is Stitch as like a consultant for balance, you know? Or maybe who has done, I think all the Hardlings would say like Gobbins. I know he has done a lot on the CSM, like game design wise. He has been like putting a lot of work in there and stuff. I could see that happen.
He's actually poked me a bunch about like over the years when we had the ESS banks and stuff, and when they were reworked and then reworked again. Every time Gobbins would poke me and ask me about what the banks felt like as a robber, and he would have like long discussions about it. But like when you ask who should be next, like I don't know, dude. Like depends what the job would be, man.
I was just curious if maybe there's one name out there. I don't know. Maybe there's one guy that everyone's like, yeah, that would be really good. But maybe they should just like recruit just even more people. There's a lot of good guys in the community right now that would make good devs too.
I'm sure.
But yeah. All right, then, as the community manager, no, community dev manager, yeah, it's the same, right?
Yeah. No, I think develop the community, not just manage it.
Yeah, one of the hot topics right now is the whole high sec griefing thing.
Yeah.
Do we have, or maybe we should start with Amelia, because I probably I'm gonna predict. I'm not gonna predict it because obviously we'll have you.
I'm gonna predict Amelia doesn't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, honestly, like 100%.
His head is so knowledge. Deep into AT right now that there's like stuff happening on TQ. What even is that right now for Amelia?
Yeah, so
I've been training with them on Thunderdome, and that's the only thing that exists, right? We have a couple of people who aren't, and they're just kind of lone wolfing it on TQ, and they're just like so alone in the world right now. So I don't think Amelia has an idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, is that the case?
Start that, 100%. Maybe explain.
All right, so what happened? Okay, I give you the super short version of it. And guys, don't be too upset if I don't get it right. I haven't paid 100% attention to it all. But you have a streamer called Hateless. I'm not sure if you're aware, but he is mostly doing high-sec stuff in form of mining. So he's mining there in his Orca and a couple alts or mates, I don't know. And then apparently some people went and kept bumping him. So obviously, if you bump an Orca out of position, it's pretty useless, right? So yeah, he's not getting killed, he's not getting ganked, but he's getting bumped. And he's changed system and whatnot, and it got like really frustrating, right? So then he went and said like, fuck it, I'm not gonna make any EVE content anymore unless CCP fixes this issue, right? Which is obviously, I mean, first of all, like, how do you fix this issue? That's the first question. But yeah, that's basically what happened, right? And that sparked this whole discussion about like ganking and overall high-sec gameplay and griefing and all that stuff. Like, where does it go too far and all that stuff, right? Which I think is a kind of interesting discussion, honestly, because for me personally, it kind of boils down to like, what do you see high-sec as? You know what I mean? And I think, Bjorn, was that you? We were sitting around talking, or was that Shines who said like, well, I've always seen high-sec as just being the tutorial anyway. Like, why are people basing 100% of their content and shit like this in high-sec anyway? I think it was Shines saying that. But I thought that was an interesting point of view because, like, yeah, technically, it's, maybe it's not meant to be the open end, 5-year long like Care Bear a spot for you. Maybe it's just supposed to give you like a hint what you want to do and stuff, right? But I don't know. Maybe you guys
it's a difficult situation because just the word griefing, I don't like that word particularly myself, especially for something like EVE. But there's a difference in fucking with someone who has been playing this for like 10 plus years and he's sitting there with an army of alts and he's just printing money versus ganking someone who has literally just started in the last 2 like hours. Like I think there's a pretty big difference between those two scenarios. I have not had Hateless's thing land on my desk, so to speak. I've just finished like my onboarding and stuff with CCP, but I have looked into it in my free time. I don't really have like an official position to give you like what CCP thinks about it. But in my experience, just in relationships in general, when you give ultimatums, sometimes they can backfire, and you need to be careful how you approach your communication with people. And when you like try and change or else, it can sometimes end with the else, right? Forcing change with ultimatums is not always the way to go. It can backfire.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm like in my personal experience. I don't know if Hateless's thing is being looked at by other community devs or like obviously I know that people are talking about this whole what is actually ganking versus new bros. Like this is like the community's talking about this a lot right now. But I don't have a solution for this. Like people have had really good solutions in Reddit and other places where they're like, well, why don't you just pay someone your partner skins to go bump for you, like counter bump the bumper, or like there's things you can do. Like, why are you in an Orca? Why aren't you just orbiting in a different type of ship? Or like, do you need to have compression on constantly? Could you do this differently?
Hixrig, but I've been reading a trip might just work too.
I mean, yeah, but you make yourself obviously less tanky when you have a Higgs rig. But I mean, ganking's always been there. It's always been an integral part of the game.
Yeah, I think that's what's like honestly a very interesting part of EVE to me is that compared to a lot of other MMOs, there is none of this like quote unquote safe space or anything, which makes it feel like there's always a certain amount of danger. And God knows how many times I've lost expensive DSTs in a high stack or something like that. And I think that's happened to like every player in the game. But at the same time, it's kind of an integral part of the game. And if you want to change that, I think that's a discussion to have. But right now, it has been that way historically. So I don't think you can all of a sudden say, hey, I'm getting grief now because I'm getting ganked or I'm getting bumped or whatever. Like that's part of the game, and there are ways around it. You know, you guys are talking about solutions. You can also go to low sec or null sec and try and actually defend yourself. There's plenty of options for the individual players to actually do.
Yeah.
One thing that I think that's kind of interesting is the relationship between Eve and content creators, and I think you guys are probably better than anyone here to kind of discuss that, because like
I've had a very blunt view on it that we should never be treated differently, and that's not going to change. Like, I don't think streamers or YouTubers or anyone who creates content, they're still just players at the end of the day, and they shouldn't get treated differently. Like, they should still have the same gameplay as other players, basically.
Yeah, and there's ways around certain problems, but it also has benefits. You know, I think we both probably profited just as much as we suffered from like stream sniping, right? Every now and then you have that situation, you're like, fuck, if I wouldn't have streamed this, it would have been very hard for them to catch me this, you know, easily and stuff like this. But then you have other situations where it's like suddenly some guy's like, hey, you know, let's do this, or invites you to a fleet. I've done that to you, for example, right? Remember? Just invite you to like a fleet because you were like, there was nothing else for you to do in that area. So you just take a Titan bridge into like a massive fight and suddenly in action there, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, these kind of things, like, there's a balance. Like, I think it kind of meets in the middle at the end of the day again, right? It's like, it's good and bad. And you just gotta deal with the bad when it comes up. You know, it's not always easy. Sometimes it gets frustrating, right?
And not everything is easily streamable, and no one's entitled to stream everything. Like, you decide to put yourself out there. I've done shit in this game that just wasn't streamable, like pipe bombing people with Black Ops ships. Of course I wanted to stream that shit. It's just
I was about to say, you streamed that? Like,
no, like, it's just can't. Like, I would have loved to stream some of the stuff we did with Goran and deployment up in Outer Passage, but just, you can't.
Yeah,
like, you're outnumbered. You're like, there's things you just cannot, and it is what it is, man.
Yeah, it's a little sad. Like, everything that's cloaked, and there's a ton of it, right? Like, a lot of EVE, like larger scale fleet warfare is about intel and OPSEC and all. It just can't stream.
That sucks kind of, though, a little bit. You know, like, I understand it completely as well, but it's like, you know, if you compare EVE to a lot of other games, if you just look at like player base to the amount of people watching on like a Twitch platform or something, EVE's got to be way down there, right? Because it's such a hard game to stream in a lot of ways for a lot of the content.
And if you do, it's on you. Like, it's on you to provide the OPSEC. I got asked recently if there would be some kind of, or if I would be for having like a streamer mode for EVE. I'm like, well, what does that really mean? Like, it's not like a BR where you can hide that you're in the queue for that match. Like, the game has built-in locator agents. Like, you'll never be completely anonymous. And even if they somehow manage to make some streamer mode, like, you could just blur all that shit with filters on OBS quickly. Like, why put, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even stream, and I run into issues like that where it's like, it's hard for me to get fights nowadays because people, you know, they see the YouTube content or stuff, and people in our corp talk about this a lot. You know, it's like, it's almost detrimental to make videos a lot of the times because people then don't want to fight you when they see what you're capable of and stuff like that, which means that you just get less content.
That's also the reason why you guys have a fucking new alliance name every 2 weeks. I remember me falling for the whole, what was it? Karma feed. That was you guys, right?
Yeah.
And I just went over my videos and clips and stuff, and it was like one clip with like 50 views from a stream that was just like a day old. I was like, what is going on here? Like, and then it was like he fell for it or whatever. I was like, what did I fall for? And it's the karma feed thing, right? It's like me going over the corpse, like, karma fleet? Oh, okay. And then just went over it. I didn't even notice, but yeah, it's a big part, I think, the whole recognition thing, right? That's why I kept saying, I'm not saying it is definitely a solution, but wouldn't it be interesting if you would have like in incognito mode for everyone? Basically, you could just say, I'm an unknown pilot, and then there's a pilot in the system, and he's not friendly to you most likely, but you don't know who it is, where he's from, whatever. You see what ship he's flying. If you lock him, you could see it, right? You have to lock him to see, basically, or if you get shot or something, right? Maybe, that's where you get the info, but you can't just sit in your citadel, look in local and see like, oh, there's 10 guys from Gorenclade here. Let me just stay docked, or, those 10 guys and stabbers, I'm not going to fight. But 10 random guys, like, from a public fleet, I would undock for these guys. You know what I mean? Maybe that shouldn't be the case. You know, maybe the name shouldn't be quite there.
I think it's a cool idea and something that I would definitely talk about, but I think it also takes something away from the game. And I think that's already happened a little bit. Like before, I remember going back and like you really start to recognize names a lot more. Nowadays with injectors and stuff, it's like a little bit less because so many more like alts and new stuff. Like before we always knew like, okay, this guy, oh, he's a sign-up for PL. I know this guy, you know what I mean? And some about that like tribal
True.
knowledge is kind of like, I don't know, a cool part of the game I like. But at the same time, you know, if it like reduces the amount of fights that happen and stuff that happens in the game, I can see how it can be detrimental. So I think it's a hard thing to kind of make a solution for.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think that's necessarily the way to go, but it is worth a discussion, right? Like the whole Intel part about like who is flying what and all that stuff. It's just, you know, I think that's one of the big discussions that will come up over and over again, right? The perfect Intel thing and the you know, the fact that it can lead to risk-averse behavior. I think that's it's a big part of the game, sadly, that people can just too easily judge a fight and decide to not even try, right?
100%.
But at the same time, if you make it too hard, we see it with Blackout. I think nobody in this room is like saying like, "Oh, Blackout was the fucking shit." Like, no, it was fun for a week, and everyone kind of predicted it's gonna be fun for a week. But long term, it's not gonna be the solution for sure, right? It's gonna be horrible long term because people are like, it's too much risk. It just like goes overboard, right? So yeah, like I said, that's gonna be a never-ending discussion, I think, right? Till the end of time.
Yeah. I don't think porting everyone becomes scrambled name into Eve right now would be the right move. But I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you make it a mod, so people have to give up something, you know? Maybe it's a mid slot that uses a lot of cap, and you can just like say, "Hey, I'm not uncloaked. I'm unknown."
Mid slot, so no one knows who you are.
I would totally use that, dude.
Yeah, I mean, see, it's a discussion. There might just be a sweet spot there somewhere where you can say like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," right? Like people like Amelia and the guys, they don't want people to know who they are. They can see all the other info. Like there's 5 steppers on this gate. They can still see this.
Make it a limited time event with a booster.
Jesus Christ.
Test it. Yeah, why not? Why not test it, you know?
My question is like, if it's like only part people though, would people recognize, hey, this is a guy with a scrambled name, therefore, you know, I should be wary of him anyways?
Yeah. You know what? But maybe it's that Redding Ishtar with a scrambled name. You whoop to him and you're like, maybe I shouldn't. You know what I mean? It works both ways. Like people can use it, or it's that guy with a massive ego for no reason, and he's like, man, I'm so important. Look, I'm scrambling my name. You know, it might just be, you know, there's something for everyone. So who knows? But yeah, maybe not a bad idea to make it just a temporary event, like a booster. But
yeah, that would be cool.
The death time that would require, I wonder, right? Because that's not a thing we have really right now.
Oh.
So I'm gonna tell you from my experience on a CSM, it's gonna be a hard no. It's like, no, it takes too long. Let's move on. Let's do something we already have. But yeah.
Speaking of which, I look forward to finally getting to see into the CSM window and working with you on that front.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be interesting, that's for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe we can do like a catch up, an almost a leak stream at some point, you know, where we can't give any info away, but we can talk about it kind of vaguely. You know, it's like, that's so tricky. Main reason why I didn't run for all these years, honestly, because I was always like, and then I lose my ability to openly talk about stuff or predict. And what if I predict shit now and I'm right? Everyone's like, what? You know, so, but yeah, could be fun anyway, though. But yeah, then the whole Goran clade thing versus testing.
It was Amelia, a lot of fun.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun, and that's one of my first questions is...
At the start. And then it was like,
if it was so much fun, why aren't you out there doing it all day? You know what I mean? That's what I was about to say. But yeah, for those who don't know, Amelia made a big Reddit post about it, like writing down all the experience and stuff, like basically an after action report, right? Which again sparked the whole Anti-Blake's power projection discussion. But maybe also, I also read more into it than just the Anti-Blake stuff, right? Because if the question is why, like, so let me just ask that question before I keep talking too much here. Why aren't you doing this all day? Even like if it was no AT time right now, right? Or let's be honest, you're busy with AT. But if it was no AT right now, you wouldn't be doing this again, right? So why?
Well, I think a good way to answer that question is to think about why we started in the first place. So the reason we started was because the content was drying up so much. So our group historically lives out of a wormhole with a nullsec static. And what we do for content is we roll our nullsec and we try and get fights against various nullsec groups, basically. And what we found was that over the last year, and I think more as World War B ended, groups have become a lot more centralized. So if you want content, you go to one of three places realistically. You go to like staging systems. So like 1DQ, great spot to get content. MJ TAC for Horde, great spot to get content. You have these few very centralized hubs where you can get content, and anywhere else, it's almost dead. So for us, since we roll nullsec and we get a random nullsec system, this means that the chances that we actually get content on a new rolling of a hole is very, very low, which sucks. You're spending all this time to try and go find content, and you're getting very little return. And even if you do get fights, most of that time is then going to be 40 guys or something, because you're rolling into a staging system where there's 300, 400 people in local, which sucks. So the way we tried to do it is basically try and force fights that we can get similar scale stuff. So we beefed up our group a little bit, and we went out and started just kind of poking the bear. So we went out to Great Wildlands to start. We were poking Test, some fire guys, a few NC structures, and we got blobbed a lot of times. But a lot of times, after you wear down the response a little bit, you get some engageable fights. Whether it be like 20 versus 40, things like that we could actually take. And it was fun in that regard that you can actually force fights that people don't have to just like run away from you or over blob you.
And that's always a tricky thing, right? Like you deploy, but then you don't want to be too attractive of a target to attract too many guys, while you want as many fights as possible for your own guys, but you want to win the fights and not lose. See, it's like every time it's always that weird balance, right? And
and we had a lot of people message us like when we started picking up speed,
like,
hey,
can we
join you out here? Yeah, exactly. And we're like, no, we don't want help. Like, please stay away.
Yeah, and it's hard to draw that line for people that are actually more invested than you guys. You guys deploy just for the fun of it, right? Investment is very little. Now imagine it's a group and they are actually invested and they have like shit on the line, like they're staging Fortizar, Keepstar, whatever it is, right? They're not gonna say no to help. They're gonna say, fuck yeah, bring everything you have, and So, and that's what every time when a war starts or like a conflict, that happens every single time, is the whole bat phone arms race, right? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I guess the anti-blick stuff works very much with that, the whole situation.
Yeah, I think it does, because people can basically reach to those fights without having to deploy there. Like if groups want to deploy to an area to then go take part in those fights, I think that's great. If you want to commit to that and you're making sacrifices from your homes or whatever that is, that's awesome. That's fine. But the fact that you can reach that fight in very, very little time, even though it's 5-6 regions over, it means that realistically the map becomes very, very small, even though the map is also very, very dead, if that makes sense. Like, since travel time becomes so short, so you don't no longer get these kind of localized fights. Every fight turns into who can you bat phone the bigger end, basically, and you having these like basically proxy wars, like with the South. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pando, but that the fight versus like fire and RHP and all that stuff in the south. That's kind of started off as a proxy war a little bit. Then goons came in, then horde came in, and you just see kind of this escalation. And I feel like that's almost every fight that's been taking place, even in the north right now with Volta and Brave and Frat. You see more and more groups joining on both sides until you're getting this huge fight, basically, which can be cool. Getting huge fights is awesome, but at the same time, it means that any group that wants to take part in these smaller fights can never do that realistically.
Yeah, they always end up in this endless grind then. And the defensive advantage is real, right? So if the forces are too close to each other, it's like a standstill, stagnant thing. And the fights are very scarce, actually. And then another thing that I actually read out of your whole post wasn't only the NC-Black stuff, and I'm not sure how aware you are, but like nobody even talks about fighting for soft, fighting for IHOP timers or whatever. Like nobody wants to do this, right? And that's my one big takeaway. Yeah, the NC-Black's issue, right? I'm very aware of that, but also like the soft issue. Like, shouldn't that be the focus of someone deploying to hit someone? And shouldn't that be the focus then, to fight for systems and stuff like this? But instead, it's only about set timers of like anti-blexes and stuff like this, right? And I think that's pretty sad, But McNair says, yeah, but what for? Yeah, but that's exactly what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying you should be doing this, but I'm laying out there. There's a reason why nobody wants to, right? And I think the reason is it's too much work. That's just what it is. Like, it's too much work for what it is, right?
You get very little reward too, right? It's like basically taking the systems lets you put down infrastructure, and that's about it. So, and if you're like just there for a deployment, like, do you really care about getting your jump gates put down jump gates if you have to wait 3 months or whatever?
Yeah, I see. But technically, if anti-blexes are the issue, then one way to fix it would be to reset the IHOP. So people can't put down new anti-blexes for a while, right? Yet nobody wants to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we did when we first grinded Outer Passage.
But like, it's a lot of work, right?
Yeah, it was awful. It was absolutely awful.
See? Yeah.
Especially when they set we accidentally, first time we took Sov, our first system, we didn't know that you had to set the vulnerability timers beforehand. So we accidentally set ours to the middle of AUTZ, and we had one person defending our iHub in AUTZ against 14 people or something like that. And he somehow managed to do it with one Griffin, just jamming them constantly until they ran away.
Oh my god, fucking Griffins. Don't even get me started on Griffins. But yeah, and you guys thought being the blob is easy, huh?
Yeah, right? I give sound respect.
There's so many little things about timers and all that. Ugh, it's just so much. It's mind-boggling.
I think with this discussion of like, it was a fun deployment. It was really fun feeling out which group we could like reliably fight over and over, which groups actually gave us fun fights, which we then could kind of bully into submission. And the problem at the end there is that we were then left with, they're just not going to fight you, so you have to grind these structures to prove a point. Otherwise, everyone else just gets the message, don't fight these guys, and they'll just leave.
Correct.
And that's not fun, like, to put it that way. And if there was something worthwhile to fight over, like some kind of passive income thing, right, then maybe that would be, in my opinion, worthwhile fighting over for smaller groups. Now, I want to say, even though I'm at CCP, I've only been there for 3 days. This is my personal opinion, which has been echoed for months and months before, which Pando and I have talked over a lot. And I hope something like that eventually comes back to the game, because I remember these fights in the olden days, fighting over things, and usually just whelping way fucking more than the objective was worth every month, right? But it was just a matter of, no, I want to hold this thing because it gives me some kind of passive income.
Prime example is actually my intro screen, usually when I stream, or the end of it. It's a boss fight, actually. it's a completely pointless boss fight too. And it's legendary Blurkus just whelping dreads.
Oh no, Blurk and dreads again.
Any Init guy knows exactly what I'm talking about. Just log all the dreads in and just drop them. But there was no real reason for it. But there was the fight right there, and you didn't have like that catalyst is missing right now. I feel like where it's like, we want that. I mean, I'm not saying it's a pointless thing. Sometimes it is to prove a point too, right? Like you said earlier with the whole grind, you kind of have to, there's a certain image you're gonna defend, right? If you have the image of the guy that takes every fight all the time anyway, right? You'll never get good fights. You'll just never find them because, like, why would they bring a good fight if you take a shit fight too? So there's always the balance there, and then it's just so much that you have to consider all the time, right?
Yeah, I think it was more about the idea that, if you choose to stop defending. So basically, what happened with Test is we had 2 really big fights in Outer Passage where they ended up dropping, a lot of caps and everything, and it was a really fun fight. I think we got like 40 bill destroyed or something like that on each fight, and then after that, they never fought us again without Horde having 100-man mutant fleet with them basically. And what basically happened then was that we killed the entire region except for extra large structures. So we killed almost every Fortizar, everything.
Because the damage cap is insane.
Yeah, and even the Satoyos, we reinforced some, and they were starting to unanchor them. We killed a freighter who picked up a Satoyo, which was awesome, and stuff like this. But anytime we got a Satoyo in Whole Timer or something, Horde would just come with 100 guys, and what are you going to do really versus that? So it kind of sucks that you can only force people to fight so much, but at the same time, like, it's kind of just a cost doing business. And the reason we wanted to make sure that we kept grinding the structures was that these guys shouldn't get off scot-free for not fighting, right? They should have to pay something if they make this choice to not fight.
Yeah,
I think that's what kind of fueled me to no life camp their fort too. Just like, I will catch another super. And it was perfect because I was doing nothing in my life at that time. I was like, perfect. I could just sit here literally in my underwear, just no life, fucking hanging out. It was great.
Bjorn, the evil camper, waiting for people to make mistakes.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's what happens a lot in these wars, like in the big war too. That people were just looking around, looking for opportunities like that, and then stealing citadels left, right, and center. Like, stuff gets lost and absolute chaos. I know.
That's the other thing that really bugged me. Speaking of the super stuff, Bjorn, was that I don't understand why ships can immediately dock after sinoing in. Like, maybe not like jump freighters and stuff, but the whole idea that you can jump right into tether and stuff like that, like, then you get fights naturally spawning on your own structures.
So, but the discussion then the point would be, if they couldn't dock, they wouldn't jump in like that, and then there wouldn't be a fight either, right? So,
but then how do they move?
Downtime or in a safe and then quickly warp.
But that, I feel like that gives still more chances to get fights, right? Than people just jumping in and then being completely safe anyways. Like, we had Titans jumping, because for an Outer Passage, they only had one jump, which wasn't to a keep star, right? So we bumped a few supers off, and eventually they started warping to safes and then, like, logging off and stuff like that to, like, warp to an Athenor at 0 or something, or whatever that might be. And that was our only opportunity to get them. But the whole idea that, you can do that right onto tether or right onto a dock is, it removes that chance whatsoever, which means moving across the map becomes very, very safe.
I mean, but it becomes like so much harder for a smaller entity to then work under a bigger entity if you can't immediately dock. Like, if you couldn't jump a dread to an NPC station and dock it up immediately, like, how would you move dread bombs around? How would you?
Yeah.
Like, I think it is a two-edged sword. Like, I don't know.
I 100% agree. It's, man, if you touch that kind of stuff, it's super risky.
Yeah.
That you, like,
then,
just take off capitals overall.
Could just become, like, literally the biggest without no competition, right?
Yeah, you can't make it too easy to catch stuff, because then obviously stuff wouldn't be in space.
It blew my mind, though, was how much stuff they moved out versus how little of it we saw defending their shit. Like, when we saw like the actual amount of supers, they were like, if they had just dropped all those supers every time, there's nothing we could have done on another passage.
I think it comes down to playstyle, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So,
but it was just like, it was insane to see how much stuff they moved out.
Yeah, but like, there's a lot of casual players.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
And there's nothing wrong with it. Like the three of us, we're pretty hardcore, right? Let's be honest. Like if there's something going on every day, we're gonna be there every day, right? But then there's people that don't have the time or energy to do this every day, and then they're gonna be there at the weekend, and then if there's a move up, they'll make time for that, right? And then you'll get those monster numbers, and then it's like, man, if we had this in fleet every day, we would win this war, but like, not realistic, okay? It's like, but yeah, it is shocking, right? It would be nice if people would use all these supers and titans that they have.
I just think we would have not got anything done if they actually defended with it.
Yeah, it's very hard to, even just facts. I mean, facts in a small scale fight is almost impossible to break.
Yeah, I think that probably comes down to the situation they had in that particular alliance at the time, right? Yeah. They lost their two main FCs, and you don't know how confident the other FCs, the now active FCs, were in their ability of. First of all, they can't ever tell you like 100% like what can I field even, and then how good would they be? They have no experience with it. Like, and then it's against some of the best PvPers in the game. Dude, are you gonna light that sign and sit there with your pants off? Yeah, there's a fair chance that's happening, right? And then you're gonna start losing supers and titans, and then suddenly there's like a dread spawn, you know what I mean? It's like a dread bomb coming in. It's I can totally see why people are probably like, I don't know, I don't feel like taking this risk.
Yeah, I suppose.
And even even the most experienced FCs fuck up sometimes, and then get caught with it. So such is the cycle of life, I guess.
Gotta risk it for the biscuit.
But yeah, we're getting close to an hour, and it's kind of sad that we have to keep it at an hour. But you guys have AT training in like 10 minutes. But
I've been lucky enough to get to train with these dudes, but I will not actually be competing. I cannot compete in a competition that CCP is holding themselves. It'd be awkward if I win AT shifts.
Oh, that's
like, here,
sad.
Bjorn, have it. Thank you.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is and it isn't. At the same time, like, it would be weird for a CCP to take part in the AT and be like, yoink, thanks for, X amount of risk.
You could always...
He can just spawn him himself now.
You could always just trash the skins you get.
The skin's not, it's a ship, man.
Or the ship, whatever. You could just like
trash it.
Sorry, the blueprints are the BPCs, but you could just always just say like, hey, here, stream it live and you trash them. It would just up the price, the value for the other guys, I guess.
No, it is obviously a shame. I was looking forward to it. It would have been the first time I would ever compete in the AT, and getting to practice and I was heading in there with the Hydra team. Like, that's for myself an accomplishment that I got to a position where I was invited to do that. But I sadly will not be taking part. But I am going to still train with them, and I have been for many weeks now, knowing that I won't be able to actually compete.
Yeah,
it is what it is, man.
Yeah, I heard the Hydra team is a good team for starters. For the first time, AT guys.
No bad habits.
Yeah,
but honestly, if anyone's listening ever wants to try and get like better at Eve, I have to say AT practice is probably the best place to do it, because in terms of like just fights per unit time, it's unbeatable, and you can, the way that you kind of do these matches and you kind of try this thing and then try this thing, in terms of individual skill, there is nothing better at improving. So I highly suggest, if your groups are ever taking part in some of these tournament events, highly suggest trying to participate. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think, but it also depends on what group you're with, right? Some groups are really organized and they have it nailed down. You guys are obviously super experienced with it, and you guys have a super like high fight per minute kind of rate, I assume, right? Like you guys show up on time, 1900, right? Obviously. And then there's already matches lined up. Everyone wants to train with you guys, obviously, because you have like a good reputation. But then there's also other teams that might struggle with this, right? So don't expect like the newest AT teams, to have like everything perfectly smooth running and stuff like this, right?
Sure, it'll still be better than any TQ experience, though, I think, in terms of fights per hour.
I guess probably, yeah. Yeah. Like what other challenges are there with like AT practice and stuff like this? Like what are the key things you think, like if I wanted to make an AT team right now, like what are the key things I need to fucking consider before I do it? Like what do I have to have nailed down?
I think you have to have
a Kadesh.
Yeah, a good theory crafter. I was about to say. Kadesh Priestess is, I don't know, the absolute madman. He is, just probably the best theory crafter in the game, in my opinion. For people that don't know him, he's the developer who keeps Python up and running, which is kind of fitting, considering
Wait,
a lot of
Kadesh
people.
Priestess is doing Python?
Yes. Yeah, he's.
I thought it was a Russian guy doing it.
Yeah, Kadesh is Russian.
Kadesh is Russian?
Yeah.
Haven't I heard him speak perfect English before?
Yeah, he speaks good English.
I'm Icelandic. I speak English, Pando. You're German.
Man, you know what I mean. I didn't hear a Russian accent. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. I didn't know it was Kadesh running Python. Someone says dark mode Python. Yeah, guys, you know the guy well, and there's no dark mode for Python yet.
He's too busy theory crafting, dude.
What the fuck? We need to cancel AT for next year then, so you can make the dark mode for Python.
Exactly. That's how you get it done.
Yeah. I mean, what did he do when AT was the
too much TQ3 crafting, dude. Too much.
Guys, you gotta at least try, I sent Tiana actually, because she speaks Russian. I sent her after, I guess, Kadesh Priest. I didn't know who it was, to push for a dark mode in Python. But he said, nope, doesn't work, like too much work or whatever. Maybe one day.
Maybe, who knows? But not today.
Yeah.
The other thing I think that's super helpful for AT team is just people that are very good at communicating. And I think that's kind of small gang helps in that, because you're kind of used to it quite a bit. But the more people that are kind of talking and communicating useful information, and I think that's a big part, is figuring out what is useful information rather than, hey, I'm shooting X now. Being able to say, hey, no, I got tackle on this, I can't transmatch. I need you to get this web on this or whatever. Just communication like that, I think, is very, very important. And you can really tell the differences between teams that, there's one person talking who is the FC versus you have 10 people speaking. You'll see that the people that have 10 people speaking are almost always doing a lot better.
Yeah. It's the same for big scale fleets though, right? Like we have a fairly sizable FC team. And then every now and then you have new guys on the FC team that don't know really when to say certain things and when not to say it, right? So some people like say they give too much intel. Like I don't want to know if there's a shuttle on the outgate on a ping, like at 437 kilometers, but he's aligned to planet 7. I don't like. Who cares, right? But then, if that's our objective, to kill that one guy in the shuttle, yeah, I want to know if there's a shuttle. It's like, so sometimes, the same information can be the right thing to say and the wrong thing to say at a different time, right? And I think that's very similar to like big scale fleets and FC teams, where it's like, people just have to learn when to speak up and get comfortable with it too. Some people are just not comfortable with speaking up in the middle of a fight and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think over the years that probably serves you super well, that people are just so experienced, they just know, And even if you communicate a little bit too much or a little bit too less, people probably figure it out, and you don't have to be worried too much, It's like more flexible and forgiving in a team of that quality, I guess.
Yeah, especially when you get to the point where there's certain things where you don't even need to communicate because you know it. Like, you know, if you see a person burning this way or something, you know what they're going to do, right? Because you've flown with them so much. And that's my honestly favorite thing about small gang or tournament play or whatever. But being able to build so
That
much
team play.
experience with another team play that you don't even need to communicate that, like, that's some cool shit, honestly. I find that really cool.
Yeah, that reminds me of CS, Bjorn. We're playing a lot of CSGO, like, since, I don't know, like for half a year now. And way longer, probably, yeah. But it's that's where the fun starts. It's like where your team forms, right? Where the team
playing
play
at a high
kicks
level
in.
is incredibly satisfying.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. I want to meet Dick. I know Amelia's too nice to say this, but he's gotta go. He's gotta be on grid in a minute.
Yeah.
So
Right.
thank you for inviting us. Thanks for the chat.
There you go.
So yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, guys, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the subs and stuff. I hope you're not too mad that we keep it at an hour today. But I guess at least you're hungry for the next one, right? So maybe we do a longer one with these guys. I mean, I'm sure this is like the 7th time Bjorn has been on. The 3rd time Amelia has been on. Always fun to talk to you guys.
Yep.
Thanks for coming on, and have a good one, guys. All right.
Thanks, man. See ya.
See ya.
Bye bye.